Lesson 3, contact, follow-up, and closing. So you've seen this sheet before, okay? And this is, to me, is kind of like the whole essence of the nugget of what we've been talking about through the whole 5 weeks. So if you do not focus on anything or save any document, I would encourage you to make sure you print this off and tape it on your office wall somewhere. So here's the master plan here is as we've talked about, you're going to build your target market list of 100 to 200 names. And you're going to, as you go through these names, you are going to go back and you're going to be adding more names as certain names come out. So you want to keep a list, a stable of names of 100 to 200. So when they drop out, go back to the well and get some more names to put in. And we're going to be matching them to your ideal customer profile. So if you have a solid customer profile where every single customer is the same way for whatever reason, then you're fine with one person. But I would encourage you to consider 2 or 3 of your best customers, because each profile may be slightly different to the point that you want to keep those parameters in mind when you're going into your target market and looking for names and reaching out. There again, your target industry. You could specialize right now in a current target industry, but as we've talked about, maybe there's a way that you can expand into a different industry that you did not before, just based on either that you never reached out to them or with some small modifications to your product or service offering. There again, target titles. Sometimes titles will vary between companies, so you want to be sure that you have validated that you have the decision maker. You can start to go with the titles that you've used in the past for your ideal customer, but it may not work in every single company, so be attuned to that. Also, you want to be aware of, are there some trigger events? Has somebody left the organization? Have they sold one of their divisions? Or a lot of people have been going through this recent economy have actually been downsizing their office space. So do any of those events help you in terms of your product might work better in the new environment or the new office or with the new marketplace that they're dealing with? And as I mentioned, you're going to divide the leads into A, B, and C categories. Start with your A's. That's the closest to your ideal profile. The B's, as I said earlier, are going to be a little bit different. They might be in a different industry. They might have a different demographic profile. And then C, where there's some similarity, but not quite as much as A and B. And there again, keep moving. You may be moving people up that were in a B and now they've become into an A, but make sure you keep your target list of 100 to 200. Now, depending upon the size of your organization, that could be 100 to 200 names in your A target market. If you're a smaller organization, then you might have less. You might have 50, but you need to find out what's going to work for you. So you're going to start by researching intensely the top 10 to 20. So you will have gone into the database that I've suggested. You can print off and save a lot of that information. Now I'm going to send you to go over to LinkedIn. I'm going to send you to go over to Google. I'm going to send you over to the company website. I'm going to send you back to the databases where, remember, there were special news articles. So spend some time doing some due diligence to get as much information as you can. You really want to see if there are some recent news articles, because there could be some major changes in the organization. It also shows the level of research that you've done when you finally do talk to someone, and that'll be impressive to them. Most people do not take the time to do this item that I'm talking to you about right here. They basically just kind of like get the names and then they run off and go take care of it. And then create your list of your 120 to 200 names. So when are we going to reach out to people? For your target market, you want to reach out when you reach out to them between 9 and 10. You have a 5.56%. You got about a 6% probability of actually catching someone on the phone. When you go from 10 to 11, you'll catch up with about 5%. So it goes down, but you can still see that these are very high levels. You could also go up to 8:30 in the morning or 8 o'clock, depending upon the industry or when the organization starts. If an organization opens up at 8:30, I would encourage you to actually try and call at 8, because you may get an executive that's in there early and they won't be as busy and they haven't started their day. Now, between 11 and noon, I'm suggesting you work on your email follow-up for various people that you've been working on your prospecting. Also go over to social media. You could do a little bit of response there. Make sure you, if you can, if all possible, step away from your desk, kind of clear your head, get your lunch away from the desk. A lot of us in today's market, we work at our desk, we work in our office, and sometimes you just literally need to get up from the desk and go away. It'll re-energize you. They also have done studies that they're saying that you should not be sitting in one location for more than 2 hours. So you need to get up and just circulate, get some fresh air. Then you're going to be working so that's from 1 to 3. From 3 to 4, you're going to build the call list for tomorrow. Okay, so take about an hour there, build it in advance if you don't have the time to do it after 5 o'clock. And then from 4 to 5, and really I've told you I've had tremendous success at 5:30 and at 6 o'clock with a lot of executives, this is your other great time to reach out. So I would say go 4 to 5. If you can stay a little bit late and go to 5:30, that would really work well. And at that point, you're going to catch up with you have a probability of catching up with someone live about 4%. Otherwise, you're going to be leaving voicemail. The prime time to reach out to people is Tuesday through Thursday, and Thursday is actually the better day than Tuesday. So I accumulated this data not only from my own 25 years in the business calling people, but also tapped into some InsideSales.com. They had some data that substantiated my own findings within my 25 years. Quote, and this gentleman, I just learned about him the other day. He was in World War I. He was a military person and also an Air Force pilot. But I like this quote, and it applies to what I'm sharing with you today and what I've shared with you in these last couple of slides. And that is, I can give you a 6-word formula. First, this is talking about success. Think things through, then follow through. So if you want to be successful, you need to go through these steps that I'm showing you, and you need to go back and what we call rinse and repeat. Start them, do the steps, go back and do them again. Next morning, come in and do them again. It may be a slightly different list of people that you're working with, but you need to keep repeating the cycle. And as I've mentioned to you, prior to this recession, it was probably a 6 to 7 reach out before you could actually touch base with someone. In this market, it's going to be 8 or 9%. Do not get dissuaded by the fact that you're leaving voicemail and you're not hearing back from people. It's really a process of persistence and tenacity. So keep going. And when they finally get through this, geez, good heavens, I can't believe how many voicemails you left with me. You're really persistent. And you say yes. And that's how I'm going to treat your business. I'm going to really follow up and I'm going to take care of you. So creating your voicemail script. This is another one. You have to remember the overall goal of the call. So obviously we're going to be introducing ourselves, but we need to remember what transformation, what outcome, what result as a process of working with me or my product is going to improve my potential client's life. We want to make sure that we touch them on that point. We don't want to tell them all the features and all the wonderful stuff about your product because they don't care about it. Remember, they care about what's in it for me. So we have to be able to answer that succinctly in a voicemail. So remember that you're going to identify yourself, going to give your name. You're going to leave the phone number in the beginning of the phone call. You explain why you're calling. I'm going to give you some examples here in a minute. One sentence, you're going to talk about your value, the benefit, and the outcomes that your product or service delivers to them. You're going to be answering the what's in it for them. Then you're going to provide proof that you can deliver in 3 sentences on 2 success stories. And then number 4, you identify yourself again. I'm Eleanor Ann Sweet with Turbocharged Sales, and my phone number is area code 847-304-4500. I look forward to talking to you. Have a great day. So make sure that you slow down by the time you're going to be leaving your name and number, because sometimes you could be a little bit nervous. And sometimes when you're leaving a voicemail, it's not like you're talking to someone and you can lose track of the speed in which you're speaking because you're thinking about you're going to get on your next phone call. But if you need to slow down at the end and make sure they clearly know who you are, what organization you're with, and most importantly, the phone number. So here's an example of a voicemail script number 1. Hello Tom, this is Eleanor Sweet. I'm with Turbocharged Sales, area code 847-304-4500. I'm an expert in increasing sales and revenue for small businesses. The bottom line is, in this recession, I'm helping clients cut overhead and find new potential customers. For example, an ABC company saw an increase of almost 5% in their sales using our system. I'd like to introduce myself and Turbocharged Sales over the phone or via Zoom and learn about your company and see if I'm able to help. Please call me. Again, this is Eleanor Sweet from Turbocharged Sales. My phone is 847-304-4500. So that's our hypothetical initial first one. And you're going to put in your own company name, your own, success results that you're going to share. So I underlined it here. So this is going to be your second voicemail that you're going to leave, several days later. And so some of this is still the same, but then you're going to add in some new information, and actually having some of the information be the same. So if they do listen to a series of voicemails, who you are is going to kind of start to sink into the head. So it's a way of getting their attention. That's the hardest thing in any marketplace, let alone this particular economy, is how do we get their attention? Everybody is so busy trying to figure out how can they help their business survive? How can they meet their own customer? That people are just very preoccupied. So you need to kind of wave the flag and get their attention. So this would be a second voicemail suggestion. Hello, Tom. This is Eleanor Sweet. I'm with Turbocharged Sales, 847-304-4500. I'm an expert in increasing sales and revenue for small businesses. I've been supporting small businesses for 10 years and have worked with over 50 clients nationally. For example, DEF in the Chicago market saw an increase in sales of 4.5% after using our system. I'd like to introduce myself and Turbocharged Sales personally, learn more about your company, and see if we might be able to help you. Please call me. Again, this is Eleanor Sweet from Turbocharged Sales. My phone is area code 847-304-4500. Now, another tip I forgot to mention relative to anytime you leave a voicemail, I would actually, if you have the ability to stand up in your office, when you leave the voicemail, when you're standing, you will have a better strength of voice. It's going to come off as more confident, and it's going to be easier with the diaphragm to do the breathing and the pacing on articulating well so that they can hear you clearly. So try that. It works like a charm. So this would be the follow-up voicemail. So now we're at voicemail 5 and 6. So you've left a couple other ones. You've given a little bit of accomplishment on your third one. You've given a little bit of accomplishment on your fourth one. But at a certain point, how much can you keep calling somebody? So this is the one where you're basically going to tell them that you've called multiple times. You realize they're busy, but that you won't be touching base with them until 6 months. So you really do want to make a note on your card or your CMR system or your Excel sheet that once you leave this voicemail, you want to put a date on it. And you also want to put an asterisk to have your system remind you when you're going to be following up, let's say in that 6-month period. So that you can show them that you keep your word and you're good on follow-up. And most sales executives have the best of intention, but where it falls short is on the follow-up. I can tell you that for a fact. So voicemail 5 or 6, 5 to 6. You decide at what point, Hello, Tom. This is Eleanor Sweet. I'm with Turbocharged Sales, 847-304-4500. I'm an expert in increasing sales and revenue for small businesses. I've called you a few times wanting to introduce myself and turbocharge sales personally. I know that you're busy, and because I haven't heard back from you, I'm assuming this is not a good time for us to have a conversation. I don't want to make a pest of myself, so I will not be calling again. I'll touch base with you in 6 months. If you've been meaning to call back and simply haven't had a chance, I would love to share with you how we've helped other small business owners in the area. Please call me. Again, this is Eleanor Sweet from Turbocharge Sales. My phone is area code 847-304-4500. Now, you'll notice in a couple of these that I said area code and then I didn't say area code. So I would interchange it and move it around. Sometimes just out of reaction, if you say to someone area code, then it kind of cues them up that they know they should be writing down your phone number. So that's just a small technique you could try. So as we've been doing these voicemails, and hopefully at some point you are connecting with the person, we're following up with our email. So I wanted to touch base again in terms of what's our checklist for the basics on email. Another thing is that also after I would leave like that last voicemail, I would use my subject header, if you haven't used it before, waving the flag. I know you've been busy, and I would pretty much say what you've said in the voicemail, that you will not be calling for another 6 months. But if things have changed in their organization, or if you've misunderstood the fact that they've been not had the ability to get back to you, you make it very clear and give you your phone number in the email as a follow-up to that last voicemail. So the basics on email is you need a strong subject line. Shorter is better. I will admit we all kind of end up, sometimes making long subject lines because we have so much that we feel if they can only see our subject line, then they would return our phone call. But shorter is better. And that's something, to be honest, I could probably work a little bit on myself. So you try leading with your contact's name first. That's very effective. So this is assuming you're not doing an e-blast program and you're doing these individually. So on your initial reach outs, I would encourage you to customize and do each email separately, as opposed to just doing a generic e-blast. So you could say Tom, and then what I would do is I would do semicolon to break it, and then I would do the subject line. Like in this case, you could say Tom, semicolon, left my last voicemail today or yesterday. See if you can grab their attention, because then maybe they're going to be curious. Well, why was that the last voicemail? Or lead with a question in the subject lines. Questions work particularly well. So you could go Tom, semicolon, is everything all right? Question mark. And then I do the thing about waving the flag, and then people are like, oh, I didn't realize it was 2 or 3 emails. I got kind of busy, Eleanor. I apologize. So you got to kind of figure it out on your own. Try some different techniques. Subject lines should, if you can, keep them to 5 to 6 words, less than 50 characters, and avoid caps, and using the exclamation mark, because that's a quick way to get pulled into somebody's spam. And that's another thing when you send an email. Let's not say the first email, but let's say the second or third follow-up email. You could say, are you getting my previous emails? Have some of these gone into spam? Can you just confirm, or something like that? And people just, can you help me? People love to help people. So keep your email short and to the point. Try to keep as much as possible above the fold so they don't have to scroll down. And there again, your email must show a benefit or an outcome that's created by working with you, answering the question, what's in it for me? And you're going to lead with the most powerful information or benefit that you have first. So something there also is, if you can quantify it, so you could say increase customers' business 5.6%. The minute they see a percentage or dollars, it draws the eye into the email. So if there's any way you can quantify or qualify in terms of using numerics, percentage, or dollars, it'll really make a big difference. And don't forget, you also want to have a call to action. So toward the end, and what I do for my call to action is I actually underline it. So if I've sent some emails to someone and they haven't responded, then I underline my call to action, or I bold it. And that really makes a difference. It's something that I'm not necessarily suggesting you do on your first or second email, because it could be it could put some people off. But if you have emailed someone more than once and they are not responding, then I would first start with the underline, and then I would go to bolding second. And it really is better not to put any attachments on, because that's asking someone to suddenly open something up and look at it, and it just requires too much time, and particularly right now in this marketplace. So I would suggest to avoid attachments. You're hoping you get to the point that you have touch base with them, or you can send an attachment to a follow-up meeting that you've had, or a Zoom meeting. But initially, unless you have not had a real connection with the person, I just don't think there's a lot to be gained by attachments. As I've said to you, we have to remember, people, there's no study anywhere, and I've never heard of anybody that has actually bought from an email. People buy from people. So you can send all the emails you want to someone, and you never talk to them, you never have a relationship with them, you never interact with them. You're just kidding yourself. And so that's something that is hard in this economy, because I know that email is less expensive, and it's human nature to want to send out a lot of e-blasts. But in reality, you have to have a relationship with somebody first. So now we've got contact. It's exciting. We're either going to have a Zoom meeting with them, or we're going to meet them in their conference room. We're going to get together with somebody. So the goal here, of course, is to get the appointment. You're going to you will phone the people first, then you will follow it up with the email. Okay. When you connect, the goal is to get an appointment. You are not trying to sell your product, sell your service on an initial phone call with somebody. They don't have the time. And if they haven't done business with you, they're not going to have the background. If anything, you're just giving them the excuse to say no to you to get you off the phone. It's the same thing with if they say to you, can you please send me, Eleanor, some literature? Don't send literature. That's just a waste of time. They're just stalling. And you just say, I can appreciate the fact that you might want something, but I think that's a little premature. I really need to get to know a little bit more about your company and how we can best serve you. If that's all right with you, I'd like to do that in our next, to be able to get to know you a little bit more in the next meeting, to find out if that even makes sense. Because you want to be respectful of their time. So the goal is to get a 10-minute appointment. Depending upon if this is your first meeting, try and get 10 minutes. Their time is very valuable, and they're going to respect you with literally at the 10-minute mark. And you say, you know what, Mary, this was great talking to you, but I see that it's at our 10-minute mark, and I'd like to see if I could schedule a follow-up meeting to continue this conversation. The majority of the time, believe it or not, they'll say, oh, well, no, I have a little more time. They'll give you that little more time. But if they're busy, they're like, you know what, thank you. I really appreciate that, because most people just, particularly a lot of salespeople, they just talk over people. They're just so eager to get them on the phone, and particularly in this market. And then you reschedule the appointment, and it's solidified your respect for them, and it's solidified also their level of commitment, that they're willing to commit to another appointment. So as I said, don't send the sales materials. That's usually a stall tactic. And then you're going to want to confirm the 10-minute appointment. I would try and confirm it if you can before you get off the phone. And then also what I would do is I would confirm it via email. Just say, you know what, I'll send you an email this afternoon, and we'll confirm all the details. Then you could say, I'll call you at 3 p.m., Wednesday the 21st next week. For my records, are your offices still? You might want to see if you can confirm if they have moved their offices, because if you ever want to send them some mail, or you're ever going to go visit them, then whether or not they have moved their offices. It's another way to interact with them and also keep building and updating your database. And then you say, I look forward to reconnecting on the 21st. Have a great day. So here's a quote that I wanted to leave with you. And this is Winston Churchill, who we actually had in our previous sessions. I'm very intrigued with him as a leader that we've had in this world. Sometimes it is not good enough to do your best. You have to do what's required. So I put this in because through this whole process, I suspect some of you are like, well, I'm not sure I'm going to call 5 or 6 times. I'm not sure I'm going to send 5 or 6 emails. So I am telling you that I really do believe in this process. I have worked with it successfully for over 20, 25 years. You do need to do all these steps. So if you want to take your shortcuts, that's fine. That's your decision. But this is the essence in this quote of what I'm trying to encourage you to, is that even though it may not be fun, you may not think you have the time, you don't think it's being productive because you're not getting the instant gratification, you're not getting people to get back to you and giving you feedback, it really is required. And the more you can do the things that are required, even though they may not be the hit thing on your parade, the more it'll help you fill your pipeline and build your business. So that's the thought I wanted to leave with you today. So going into customer delight, this is an area that this is particularly true, because sometimes you make the sale and then we don't do the follow-up. We're moving on to the next customer that we're serving. But I wanted to go through the basics again, remind you, keep this checklist. Try and, if you're meeting with someone, then try and be 15 minutes early. If you're on the phone, then call on time. You want to be genuine. You want to build a personal rapport. If you're in their office, you can notice family pictures, or you can see a college degree on that's framed or something. But try and find some way that you can really connect with them. I am a second generation Slovak. And so I also do genealogy. So I'm always interested in people's background. Just, where did you come from? So when people have an interesting name, I just generally do care. And I'll just say, oh, well, what's the heritage on that? What's the nationality on that? Or what, where did your relatives, what country did they come from? And it gets people talking about that. So you just have to find a trigger of something. Now, if you've been referred by someone, from a little league game or someone in your church or whatever, then you've got that going right in. But if you don't, just look about ways that you can genuinely create a rapport with someone. You want to answer all the questions promptly. You want to keep your commitment in terms of your follow-up. You also want to deliver, make sure that you effectively communicate the true value that you offer by doing business with you, in terms of, if you do business with me, this is what our product or service is going to do. We're going to make your life easier. You're going to sleep better at night. You're going to have more time for other projects within your organization. Whatever it is, make sure that you show what is the result of working with us. In the case of, turbocharged sales, we basically do literally find hidden sales for people. We show them how to use the databases in more detail, and we take it through. In some cases, clients hire us to do it for them. Okay. And so I'm finding new business for you. I'm also going to find ways that you can save money that you may not have thought about. And sometimes you're too close to it. Like if someone says, if you put your finger on your nose, you can't see your finger. So having someone from the outside, such as yourself or your organization, come in and help someone with their business is invaluable. And you want to offer exceptional customer service. This is an area I've told you in 2021 is going to be one of the hottest business areas, because right now, with everything that we've all had to go through with this particular economy, customer service has come down in this country. People are tolerant right now because of the circumstances, but if you can excel in this environment, you'll be ahead of all your competitors. And you want to stay in touch. Like I said, you're going to be in touch with them within the first 30 days of the transaction, and then you're going to follow up again in another 60 days, and then in another 90 days, and you're going to reach out to them at least on a quarterly basis. And as you're doing number 6 and staying in touch with them, don't forget to ask for the referral. And we went through all of that in one of our previous modulars, and I even gave you a mini script on that. So when you ask someone for a referral, don't forget that they may not give it to you right away. That's something you're going to have to follow up on. And in some cases, what some people are doing is literally writing their own referral and just sending it back to the customer and saying, well, does this pretty much say how you feel? And getting them to sign off on it. It's kind of like the LinkedIn recommendation thing. So here's the referral script. I put it in here to make it easy for you. You can modify this, obviously, and use it for your, whatever your circumstance is. But this is an example where I'm referred by a friend of mine. So it's Jack, or business acquaintance. Jack Waston asked me to spend 20 minutes with you personally, with the idea that you'd be able to know in that time whether what we accomplished together also makes sense for you and your organization. So you're asking for a 20-minute commitment. You came in on a referral name. So the odds are pretty high that if you're referred in through a name of somebody else they know in the industry, professionally, whatever, that they will give you that 20 minutes. So be confident in asking for your 20 minutes. You will not be able to accomplish this in 10 minutes. And if someone says, well, I'm really, really busy, then try and Well, what does next week look like? Or can we do it a month from now? Whatever it is, try and stay on it and see if you can get that commitment to set up that time appointment. So what have we been going through in the last 5 weeks? We've been talking about the six-figure turbocharged sales blueprint, which basically you have to be very familiar with your marketing, with your branding, with your promise. Is it consistent? We've talked about how you have to know the value proposition of what type of impact, what transformation or outcome will your client or customer realize as a result of working with you. We've talked about sales, about figuring out and defining how we're going to find out who our ideal customer profile is, where can we find more sales. We've got client retention. We talked about that in Modular 3, because most people don't realize how much you want to keep the customers you have, or go back and try and get customers that have recently left you. And we talked about the money. You lose one customer. If it costs you $120 to get the customer, it now costs you $240 because you got to spend another $120 to go get another customer. And oh, by the way, you lost the referral. So that's another $120. So just by losing one customer, that hypothetically, if your cost of a customer is $120, you're at least have lost $720. Then we talked about client acquisition, which of course very heavily gets into the prospecting. And then here today, we've been going through the integrated system. So go back through your various modulars on the membership website and look at the areas that you don't think you're quite as strong. Take some of the templates and just literally print them off, and then just make sure, if you haven't already put them into a notebook, put them into a notebook, and you'll have them as resources to go back to. So you're going to go out and you're going to work on creating some business. You're going to get some business, but what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to keep this folder on your desk in a space that's really easy to get to, because in another 3 or 6 months, you may have to kind of get recharged up and redo this whole system. You may think that you're doing it, but it's just human nature that we all get distracted with a new customer or something going on in the marketplace or our industry. So you will want to come back to this and revisit with it, kind of get it back into your head and go back and just kind of start with a clean slate and start over again. So the quote is, the secret to success is to do the common things uncommonly well. So a lot of things that we went over today may seem like, well, duh, I've been doing this or whatever, but I'm asking you to consider doing it the way that I'm suggesting, because I have a proven track record of the last 20, 25 years using these systems and building, a six-figure business using these techniques. So try my system at least once, go through it multiple times, 2 or 3 times. But if it's not working for you, then you modify it for yourself. But try the initial system that you've invested in to make the commitment and invest in your business for your employees and for your family. So what is the blueprint? Okay. So again, it's a recap here. We've got 9 steps. The first one for turbocharged sales blueprint is, we talked about this in module 1, is make sure you have a consistent brand, which means that your image, your promise, and your personality all make sense. They tie together. It could be in color. It could be, does your logo represent what you accomplish? But no, you want to really make sure that there's cohesive, cohesive tying together of all these elements in your website, in your brochure, in your business card. If you have a booth that you go out to McCormick Place or something, make sure everything is consistent. And same thing in terms of your letterhead and your email and your signature line. Step 2 is you clearly define your customer value, which is the result of working with you or your product, because that's going to be your primary focus of communicating that value that you bring to that customer. That's why we're reaching out, because we know we can help and we can make a difference and an impact on people's life. We have a moral obligation to go out and share our gifts, okay, of how we can help others, and particularly in this economy. So once you figure out your value, you're going to see your ideal customer profile of your 3 top customers, how that value transformed and changed their lives. And so if it can do the same thing for your top 3 customers that we're going to use in our ideal customer profile, in your heart, you're going to be able to help others with a similar profile. So then we're going to go into our databases that we suggested. You may have some of your own databases internally. You can buy lists professionally from organizations, but I'm suggesting you at least try the ones that we have here that are free. And so you're going to research and find some more prospect leads. Then you're going to segment your target customer leads in terms of an A, B, and C. The A's are the ones that are the closest to your ideal customer profile of your 3 most successful customers. The B's are somewhat similar, but not quite as much. And then the C's are further out. And don't forget that you keep elevating and moving the C's into B's and the B's into A's. And you're going to be adding more to A's as some of the A's, maybe you find out that they're not a valid prospect. So take them off the list. Don't waste your time after 5 or 6 calls. Okay. If in fact you have validated, it doesn't mean if they don't return your phone call that they're invalid, because you have to have a dialogue with them in some way to determine that. And then number 6 is you're going to start prospecting by calling first. If they're not there, you're going to leave a voicemail. Then you're going to follow up with email. And the same thing, you're going to rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And you have that sheet where we're giving you the suggested times a day to try and capitalize on. And the goal here in step 7 is you want to set up a virtual or an in-person meeting to uncover their true needs versus what they want. Lots of times when you go in to meet with a customer, they think they know what they want. But as you ask your business questions to them that are relevant to your service and your product, you're going to uncover that maybe in fact that their need is something a little bit different than what they initially perceived. And hopefully in your case, it's a need that your product or service truly satisfies. Step 8, you're going to continue to follow up with the prospect, where you can, after your initial contact with them, you're going to do it over a series of time. It's probably going to be 2 or 3 meetings, 2 or 3 phone calls, because you don't build trust on one meeting, one phone call. It doesn't happen like that. It'll happen faster if you've been referred in by somebody, but we're talking about literally doing, prospecting cold here, where you don't have a relationship. And you can develop a relationship. Cold calling does work. Okay, I can tell you that. I believe it in my heart. I've lived it for 20 to 25 years. So it's just a matter of having some thick skin and knowing it's not about you when they don't call you back or rejected. It's about something that's going on in their life. Okay, but you have to be persistent in trying to get their attention. And particularly in this market, it's going to take more reach outs on phone, LinkedIn, email, however you want to reach out to them. And actually, I think physical mail will work very well, because people have more time for physical mail. And then number 9, you're going to confirm the outcome as a result of working with you, and answer any questions and any objections they had, and close the sale. And that's our goal. So I want you to know that you can reach out to me. We're going to put the downloaded materials for Modular 5, Turbocharged Sales Blueprint, up on the membership site. It'll be the video recording, the PDF. We'll also create some extra modular handouts for you. So some of these you can just print right out to be able to use as worksheets. I want you, again, to take all the 5 weeks that we've been working on here, all the 5 modules. If you've gotten a little behind, that's the beauty of a membership website. You can still catch up, but basically reevaluate everything that we've talked about in the last 5 weeks in terms of the impact, how it can possibly impact your current and your future business model. You may need to make some small changes. And thank you for blocking your calendar for Modular 5 for Turbocharged Blueprint and Review. And I'm asking you to block some more time and go back into the membership site and just go pick up the areas that maybe it wasn't quite as clear to you. You need to listen to the information again. Apply this information in your business this week. Feel free to reach out to me via email at suite@turbochargedsales.com with any questions you have on Modular 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I want you to know if it makes more sense for your organization, and if you want to bring me in-house to help you as a business coach on any of these phases, we could do that on a project-by-project basis. And again, I am Eleanor Ann Sweet with Hidden Sales Expert and Revenue Expert. And I just want to tell you that it's just been an honor to work with you. I know these are difficult and challenging times, but I really believe if you can create the discipline, if you can have that optimism and that hope every morning, and just kind of get back in the seat, so to say, and try these techniques and stay faithful. Okay, you're going to have to protect your time, so pick the time periods, mark them off in your calendar, because what's going to happen is someone's going to call you on the phone, or someone's going to need help on an internal project or something, and you're going to lose that time period. So you need to protect your prospecting time and block it out. And another thing is also to tell people in your office is that you're not taking phone calls during that time period, because you're doing outbound, phone calls, and you're going to be doing, 20 or 50, and you're just going to keep calling and calling and leaving a voicemail. So I'm here for you. Thank you ever so much. Life's an adventure. I wish you the best. Eleanor Ann Sweet, Hidden Sales and Revenue Expert, Turbocharged Sales, President and CEO of the Remington Group. Please stay in touch, and I wish you the best. Take care. Bye-bye.